أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي Selamun Aleyküm ve Rahmetullahi ve Berekatuhu. Inshallah, we will continue with the 18th word. We finished the first point. Last week we started with the second point. I remember studying a few paragraphs. And possibly we stopped at the third paragraph saying beneath the veil of events like storms, earthquakes, and plague.
I have two questions.
No, go ahead, please, yes.
I had them last week, so I'm trying to remember. So one of them was, we were talking about self-centeredness and ego, and how if we look at the world from a self-centered perspective, then we might not see the beauty in things. And we were saying something like that, but then I was thinking the only way I can realize the beauty in the world is actually when I look at it from my own perspective. I need to be self-centered and think about myself, because in my life, I definitely see Allah's rahmat, His mercy, and His compassion. I see it very clearly in my life. But, if I look to like some people in Africa, then I don't see it. And I won't be able to see it. Like, you'd have to go and ask someone there. So I need to look at life from a self-centered perspective to see the beauty. So I didn't really understand that. And the second one was, I think we said something like, if something results in beauty, then it makes it beautiful. But that sounds a lot like the results justify the means.
Post hoc justification, they say. Like after everything done, you just need to find some reasons to
feel good.
Feel good. Like in scientific terms, for instance, you run your methods, you get something.
Something like that, but even not in that. The means, even if the means are bad and the results are good, then it's okay. Type of thing is what I'm understanding. I'll do something bad, I'll steal money, then I'll give it to the poor or something. I don't know. That's what I'm talking about. And so I don't really see that as it's hard for me to understand how something could be ugly in terms of means and then end up being beauty. I think somehow it must also, in the means, be beautiful.
We don't enjoy it that much, right? If this is the case, that we have to struggle or we have to deal with some ugliness and then wait for beauty to come, this is not the ideal case that we want to have, I guess, right? That's the point.
Not even just the ideal case, it's just, I think that, it's the argument of, do the ends justify the means? And I think from just the perspective of good and evil, and I don't think you can justify the means by the results.
Okay. Great point. So the first question was, I guess it's really important, both of them. But the first question, it's so striking, is, so from what we studied so far, it sounds like we see ugliness because we are so self-centered. And we look at things from our own perspective. But you are saying, but also even to see the beauty, I have to look from my own perspective. Most of the case, beauty is defined based on your perspective. So your perspective has to be there. So then what is the point of saying, oh, you see ugliness because you're looking from your own perspective? You should look from the broader perspective, whatever it means. It may, for instance, sound like as if the author is suggesting, or try to see the world from a flower's perspective, or try to see the world from an animal's perspective, needing to rain, so do not complain. And most of the time, such a suggestion doesn't make much sense. So any ideas about this question, any possible answers? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think there's a confusion between what perspective is and what self-centered means. I mean, what is the understanding of self-centered? Because to me, self-centered means that I am looking for things only to benefit me. There's not a perspective, but always, even though I may perceive something differently, but still I want it not to harm me, not to be something negative for me, but always I want to be like something that is beneficial for me. That's what I'm assuming self-centered here is meant to be. So I found like there's a slight distinction in how we're associating self-centeredness versus the perspective.
Seems like you are using the self-centeredness and like perspective like interchangeably or like with the same meaning.
Yeah, I am.
Any other comments? Yusuf or Mariam, please go ahead. Yeah, you don't have to wait. Any other comments?
Maybe in today's discussion we can dwell on that like a little bit more to define what we really understand from self-centeredness. I cannot speak now.
Oh, sorry. Oh. So yeah, there is a suggestion from Brother Osman. He says maybe we should be more clearer with our understanding of self-centeredness, or maybe having one's own perspective. So if there are no other comments about the question, I have something to say. I can go on, I guess. To me, I really value this question a lot, because last week as well, what I was thinking, that we have to, I guess, there's no way to escape from our own perspective, from one perspective. I'm using the perspective in different senses. But anyway, we always see things from our perspective, shared or not, right? Shared with others or not. And I guess when author says you look at things and see ugliness because of your, this is not exactly what he says, but even if we take it that way, that you see things ugly because of your egocentric worldview. So I don't take it as a suggestion of looking at the things from others' perspective. But I guess what he's emphasizing is that whether you like or dislike things, whether you like it ugly or beautiful, whether you enjoy or hate something, you should realize this feeling, this understanding of the things is with you, and it is given to you. Like I hate something, not because there is something in the thing that I hate. Just to make things concrete, okay? I hate Yusuf. Okay? Sorry, Yusuf. Just to make an example. I hate Yusuf.
The subconscious comes out.
Not because, there is something ugly with the Yusuf. Or there is, not because, I have a capacity myself to create such a feeling. Because of the context or because of the situation I am in, for some reason I am given this feeling of hatred. Or in other cases, like I love Osman, and for some reason I am given this feeling, this sense of love. And what author says, you shouldn't read these events like hating someone or loving someone in the name of yourself, or in the name of Yusuf, or in the name of Osman. But you should read it in the name of your creator. This is what I understand from not being self-centered. Read the things in the name of the creator, the one who gives you this feeling. And when you take it that way, things becomes things start being different. Because you take it as a speech, like somebody talking to you with your feelings. Somebody is telling you something about the situation you are in.
Events speaking to you.
Yes, events, your feelings are speaking to you. And then you realize that there's someone behind all these speaking to you. So you hate something, you hate an action, and you ask your question like, where does this feeling come from? Instead of taking it as something natural, instead of taking it for granted, or instead of claiming an ownership on this feeling, I hate things because I hate things, and that's all. Right? This is the usual attitude we have. I don't like you. Like, I don't like your haircut. But we don't try to read it in the name of Creator. We don't try to see the message in this feeling. We take this feeling as something belongs to us. Like, I own it. I can throw my hatred or the love to anyone I want. And Yusuf, I'm sorry, you are the unlucky one. Today I will hate you. So I don't question it, like, what is it that I hate? Or why I have this feeling with me? And author says, if you question the source of this feeling, if you question the situation you are in, the context you are being created, if you take it as a training, then beneath these feelings, beneath these events, you will reach the beauty, he says. So he's not suggesting, at least this is what I understand, he's not suggesting that try to look the reality from others' perspectives. No, he's saying that be realistic. Like, be realistic about your emotions. You are not the one who create them. They are not coming from Yusuf, they are not coming from you. They are coming from the Creator. I guess this also connects with your second question. Like, again, I don't take it, this text, as suggesting, yes, sometimes things, seems ugly, but wait for the end. Maybe the result will be good. But instead, he says, okay, you think that, or you see things as ugly, but he says, go beyond them. He doesn't say, wait for the end. He says, go beyond them. Go beyond the apparent ugliness you see. Question them. The last sentence of the first paragraph, for instance. He says, there are certain events which are apparently ugly and confused. But beneath that apparent ugliness, he doesn't say after this apparent ugliness. He says, beneath this apparent the veil, there are most shining instances of beauty and order. So he says, question, is there something disordered in the fact that you feel this hatred or love? Is there something ugly in this creation? This is how I take it. I mean, to me, this is the suggestion. I don't know if it answers in any way your question, but
I think it was good answers.
Asman, you were saying something. Sorry, I interrupted you on this.
I don't know what I was saying, but it's something that I feel that it needs to be clarified about the discussion last week. There was a comment about I think it's kind of related to Abdurrahman's second question. When we say that there are two different worldviews or two different perspectives, one is self-centered, and if you look at the case from self-centered perspective, then you see the evil, and so it is all about evil is in your perception. Whenever this is mentioned, it sounds like it is understood that, oh, what do you mean? do you claim that there is no cold out there, for example? Or there is no pain out there? Like, what is it that I'm feeling then if there is no pain? So, like, there is some confusion there. Like, looking at the life from a chronic perspective doesn't mean that when you bang your head against the wall, it's not going to hurt.
It does.
It still does, because that's God's creation. But when you look at that event from a self-centered perspective, it is just you and the wall and the pain that you feel. But when you look at from chronic perspective, it is you and the wall, and through that event, through the banging your head to the wall, it is a speech of the Creator that is actually telling you that there is a door there. Like, why are you trying to go through the door, to go through the wall? I'm just making it more dramatic too, so it will be more clear. So it seems like that is like always confused, and that's why like whenever this subject is studied, it always comes like back as a almost like a rejection and also reaction, and as it also as a rejection to the concept. Like, so if we confuse the two different subjects, then it makes it more blurry to understand the topic.
Any other comments, or we can continue reading the third paragraph? For the ones who just joined us, by the way, we continue with the second point of the 18th word. And inshallah, we will start reading from the third paragraph. Beneath the veils of events like storms, earthquakes.
Beneath the veil of events like storms, earthquakes, and plague is the unfolding of numerous hidden immaterial flowers. The seeds of many potentialities which have not developed sprout and grow beautiful on account of events which are apparently ugly, as though general upheavals and universal change are all immaterial reign. But because man is both enamored of the apparent and is self-centered, he considers only the externals and pronounces them ugly. Since he is self-centered, he reasons according to the result which looks to himself and judges it to be ugly. Whereas, if on their aims one looks to man, thousands look to their maker's names. For example, man reckons to be harmful and meaningless thorn plants and trees, which are among the great miracles of the Creator's power, whereas they are all well-equipped heroes of the grasses and trees. And for example, hawks carrying sparrows is apparently incompatible with mercy, but through this harrying, the sparrow's abilities unfold. And for example, he considers the snow to be very cold and uninviting, but under that chilly, unpleasing veil, there are aims so warm and results so sweet that they defy description. Also, since man is self-centered and worships the apparent, and therefore judges everything according to the face that looks to him, he supposes to contrary to good manners many things that are perfectly polite and correct. For example, in man's view, the discussion of a sexual organ is shameful, but this veil of shame is in the face which looks to man, whereas the faces that look to creation, art, and its aims and purposes are veils which, if considered with the eye of wisdom and perfectly correct, are perfectly correct. Shame does not touch them at all. Thus, certain expressions of the all-wise Quran, the source of politeness and right conduct, are in accordance with these faces and veils. Beneath the apparent faces of creatures and events which seem to us to be ugly, are extremely fine, wise art, and beautiful faces looking to their creation, which look to their maker. So too, there are numerous beautiful veils which conceal their wisdom, and moreover, great numbers of apparent instances of disorder and confusion, which are most regular sacred writing.
Jazakumullah. Anyone wants to take the lead? Anyone from our online participants? Oh, awesome. Go ahead.
So I see from this paragraph, there's a slight shift the author is making, because now he's talking about the hidden immaterial aspect of things. So in the previous paragraph, I noted that the examples he gave was more like visual. You could see them, and in terms of the material side. So that's one thing I'm noticing here, that in the previous, the second paragraph at least, he was talking about the innumerable beautiful flowers and well-ordered plants, and based on how they come up after an earthquake or some stormy rains, or right, and then in the autumn season, and that's also visual, and you can see that there are different sorts of flowers that are preserved and they blossom, or some of the insects, they perish, they die away, right, so that they don't suffer the consequence of the winter. So there's mercy to be seen there. And here the focus looks like about the immaterial flowers. So from the immaterial, we can discuss that, I think, a little bit. And why is it hidden and immaterial? And I have a general idea based on the example that the author goes through. But I will start here, and let's see if we can have a more discussion on this one.
Great point, thank you. Any comments on that? Why he's starting with, at least from one perspective, more concrete things like animals, flowers, the real rain, and then he starts talking about an immaterial rain, an immaterial development or immaterial beauty, flowers.
Isn't it like the case that like you start from like more concrete and move on to more abstract like stuff as a learning process? At least that's how it like works for me.
Yeah.
So it's more like the concrete examples, like at the first sight, it's more relatable, and that prepares the mind to the next step, I think.
The second part, immaterial part, is the unknown in here. So in order to provide an explanation for the unknown, he provides examples with the known, something that is already agreed upon.
This also reminded me the style of Quran, where the Creator constantly make connections between what we observe outside and what is inside ourselves. Like whatever happens inside the sun or between sun and moon, taking place within myself. In other places, the author was saying every human being has a miniature universe in it, himself or herself. So this reminded me this beautiful connection with my soul and the reality that I observe. Faraz and Isra, go ahead, please.
Yes. So, just generally, I thought to myself that, he's talking about this verse, and I want to acknowledge that if I could actually understand this, that, I'm in a situation where I don't know what to make of this world, especially the things that I like that seem to be beautiful, but then they go and leave me in pain, or things that I think are perfect turn out to be lacking, or things that I just don't like and happen. And I think if I really look to my life and see all the ways in which these ugly veils that I cannot simply go beyond, these ugly things that the contradictions I can't go beyond, and so just to remind myself and really highlight to myself what a relief this verse brings to me by telling me that from the point of view of from the point of view that, first of all, I should look at these things from the point of view of their creation and therefore the creator. And secondly, that when I do so, I will find everything to be beautiful. So this is such a relief because, it's taking me from a position where I am surrounded by ugliness and bringing me, if I can feel, and I wonder if I can actually feel what a light it will be for me to actually feel and experience all the things that I find ugly, to be able to actually find beauty in them in the way that he wants to. All these beautiful results that he talks about, all the indications that are beautiful there, that this is nothing short of, relief from, or the cure of the main afflictions that afflict me, of sadness and things that are ugly that I can't do anything about, that things that don't make sense. So just wanted to highlight what a relief this is, and can we feel that if I actually look at the world in this way, if I actually see a beautiful result where I previously saw ugliness, so I bring to my life and, think of something that you found not beautiful, that I found not beautiful, that I find ugly, and try to see what is the beautiful result here under this stormy, what is the potential that is unravel or can unravel for me. So, and then to be able to actually find that, not simply that I should find, but that actually I find, must be and would be a tremendous, a tremendous blessing, a tremendous feeling of, what I thought ugly was not ugly, turned out to be beautiful. Like what a relief that is, what an exciting news that is, and then deserving of so much celebration, and that this message is then becomes deserving of so. I appreciate it truly from my heart when I think of the evil that afflicted me, that was causing me pain. I thought is that which was bringing pain turned out to be something that takes me to the Creator and takes me to that beauty that was hidden. So it really bears, reflection in our own life. What are the things that are these veils that are ugly, and do I resist looking at their beautiful side? Or why do I harm myself in this way? Why don't I embrace, or why don't I try to see what is beautiful in that veil? So, because it seems to me that if someone could actually do this, they would have experienced, or they would experience a tremendous relief, a tremendous, guidance. So that's all I wanted to say.
And other thoughts as beautiful as Faraz?
That's a lot of pressure.
One thing I realized when Faraz was talking, the transformation that he mentioned, like the struggle, the suffering we have, and being able to see the beauty in everything. The transformation from our current state, human condition, to beautiful end. This is something we need. This is something we are after. It's not like, it would be nice if that was possible. That we constantly, at least like I can feel it, I constantly struggle for it, strive for it. Like I want to see a beauty in events that I experience. And the thing that I call as hatred or the pain, I guess this is one of the biggest evidence or indicator of this fact. Like when I cannot see the beauty, I am in pain. I'm striving for the beauty. And in such a condition, my Creator speaks to me and tells me that who has created everything in the best way. So Birkan, I know that you are in such a condition that you are looking for the beauty, and I'm here for you to show that. Like I'm sending this message to reveal the beauty in everything.
How to see.
This is my guidance to you. And it makes a perfect match. Like, yes, this is what I was looking for. I will look at things from one perspective. He will teach me. And I will going to see the beauty that I'm striving for. Alhamdulillah. This is, so, yeah, going back to the question asked, I guess, this is how I see. Like when I look at the animals, when I look at the flowers, when I look at what's happening outside, it gives me a recipe for how to reach what you are after. Like my Creator speaking to me through the flowers, through the animals, through the rain. The concrete, the real rain is pointing to the immaterial rain He will send for me. Because I can see how animals or flowers, how they benefit from the rain. It looks ugly or not, doesn't matter. Like I can see how they benefit from it, how they enjoy. And my Creator tells me, Birkan, the same way. I'm sending you rain so that you can enjoy, so that you can purify.
Sending you mercy.
I'm sending you mercy, yes. And author says, events like storms, earthquakes, and plague, these events is the mercy of your Creator, immaterial rain. SubhanAllah, like what kind of mercy is that, right? All these earthquakes, the plagues, storms. And he says, there are numerous hidden immaterial flowers beneath that. The seeds of many potentialities waiting to be sprouted. Go ahead, please, whoever wants to speak to you.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight that the author acknowledges two types of beauty. One, beauty in itself, and one beautiful because it yields to beauty. So there is rain, and it may be inconvenient, but then it is beautiful. But then an earthquake isn't more in the second category because we don't immediately see what is there is. It doesn't seem to be beautiful the way rain is or flower is. But then it becomes a venue for something beautiful. And he says spiritual because physically it looks like it's causing just havoc and death, but spiritually, meaning in a way that we need to look deeper and see what those kind of events are yielding. And one key, I think, to seeing that beauty, that indirect beauty, is to I think to relate to beautiful names of God. Here it makes reference to how things bring out the beautiful names in different ways. So he gives the example of a little bird being chased by another scary bird, and it's tough for that bird, and that bird might die. But other birds other birds of that little species will work harder to escape the big bird, and in that struggle, in that apparent ugliness, there is something beautiful manifesting. And I think maybe this may be a key point. I want to see what you think about this, like how beautiful names manifest through opposites. I think of it a lot in the cases of when I hear stories of immense courage, and you really tear up, like somebody in the middle of a war is able to act justly and protect the neighbor who happened to be on the other side of the war, and he says, no, this is my neighbor, whatever you call it, I'm going to stand by my neighbor, and risks his life to rescue his neighbor and so on. So in those moments it's extremely beautiful, those moments of courage, but then the bigger but that courage is possible because there's a tragedy. So so that tragedy is something that we don't want, and it's ugly, apparently, but then it it enables beauty to manifest, because if there was no ugliness, then no beauty would manifest. So I'm thinking about all the events that are happening in the political level. Somebody had said when the war in Syria started, the civil war and all the tragedy, they really ruined the country, and it's horrible in one way, but in the other way, I mean, that's how it is. At the same time, though, it has it yields spiritual immaterial beauty. It exposes immaterial beauty. I don't know how to put it, but one of those consequences is that lots of people ended up in places they didn't expect. So there are lots of beautiful people from that country that have spread throughout different parts of the world, that inshallah they become a seed for new things happening in those countries, host countries that they end up, or I don't know, this is just maybe like small, it seems small, but all of these upheavals also enable justice to manifest, people to be able to get up for, stand up for justice. I don't know how much we can do it, but in the bigger scale of things, these evil events can become occasions for virtue and beauty to manifest. And also the larger picture. I mean, I think in addition to beautiful names of God, we need to also keep in mind that the world is not according to just what we see from our perspective, because I don't know, these are just anecdotal stuff, but I'd like to hear what you think as well. This anecdote, like one of my dear professors in graduate school, he was Palestinian, and he had, he had lots of memories of sadness, and he died all of a sudden. Like, he had a heart attack. He was settled in America, in Canada at the time. And it was very, when I first heard it, it was so sad. He had young kids, and all of a sudden he died. So from my perspective, and from the perspective of all people who love him, it's tragic that this person died in his 50s. It seemed too early and so on. But at the same time, if this is not just this world and we're in this eternal journey, then the second thing I immediately thought of was eternal relief. Like, this person has moved on to the real world, and now he's looking at issues like Palestinian Israeli issue and all of that with a relief. He sees the real picture. He sees what will endure at the end, and he's relieved from all that suffering in a way. And so I don't know, these anecdotes, but I'm trying to relate to this distinction I see in the text between what immediately we can perceive as beautiful. I mean, yes, some people can whine about rain, but rain is clearly in the first category. But the second category is more events like earthquakes or storms that actually become hurricanes or war, and those second instances also are beautiful, not in themselves in the sense that we rejoice in them, we don't celebrate them, but we do also see that they can occasion immense amount of beauty to come out. What do you think?
Alhamdulillah, very great comments. Anybody wants to go ahead, Ms. Osman?
Yeah, I just want to underline something again. Beneath the veil of events like storm, earthquakes, and plague is the unfolding of numerous hidden immaterial flowers. if you really think about it, and like when you talk to the people who actually, I don't know, maybe we all, even ourselves, like have been there and like suffered through it. If not, like if you talk to the people who really has been through that kind of struggle, these are the very same things, experiences that is the reason for their unbelief.
Could you repeat the last part? Sorry.
These are the kind of experiences that they have a lot of problem with, that they cannot make sense of.
Okay.
As a result, these are the basis for their unbelief, because they cannot seem to find or see the mercy in these events. Then as a conclusion, thinking that if God creates everything, if this is what God's creation is, I don't see any mercy in this event, so that then like God must not be a merciful God. And he must be an unjust. So if that's how he, like who he is, then I don't want to believe in that kind of God. And I think the problem is with that approach, we never question the fact that, like, for example, plague or earthquake that happens at some part of the world, and there are innocent people suffer from it. And you really feel compassion and mercy for those people, and like you want to do something, but like when you look at your means, you are very limited in terms of your power. And as a result, what happens, like you just become like crushed almost. Like on one hand, you have this immense like compassion for the innocent people. On the other hand, like you are completely impotent and powerless, like you cannot really do much. So between those two extremes, your own being is almost like crushed in your spirit. Then that comes like as a reaction to the situation, saying that no, I don't want to believe because this is like so much pain, because I've had the compassion, but I cannot do anything. If God has the compassion, then he will do something. But we really miss one point there. And I'm going to tie this back to the self-centeredness. We never like question the fact that how did you get the compassion that you feel for the people at all? Where does that compassion come from? Where does the mercy come from? And the problem is we assume that automatically that like the compassion is ours. I am compassionate, God is not. So we attribute that compassion and mercy to ourselves. We take a position before God. We are the purified and compassion one, as opposed to God's like cruelty and unjust that he is doing to the people. We never question the source of that compassion. And we miss the point that actually you are not the source. That compassion that you feel is also from God. The same creator who creates the event of the earthquake. So this is a perfect example for a self-centered interpretation of the event. We assume the like compassion, saying that actually it is me, and then look at the case. But at the same time, we are not really powerful enough to change the fact, change the situation. Then as a result, this becomes like a suffering to you. I think that's the reason why like that verse says that like all good is from your God, all evil is from your own nafs. I think that verse refers to like to that attitude. I just wanted to underline, because this comes a lot in the discussions like with people. When you say that like life is good, like there is no evil, and this is the first thing that they come up with, how come if God is so merciful, then why he, for example, why he lets the tyrants killing all those people, for example, in Syria.
Any other comments from online participants or anyone from here?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that, Osman. I mean, that helped me understand also how the unfolding of numerous hidden immaterial flowers, what it means by unfolding it. Because if I look at from a self-centered perspective, or an egocentric, I would say, perspective also, that I close everything. I lock myself into this manifested world, to the events themselves at the surface level. Basically, I do not go beneath the veil. So at the surface, I do not let myself, because I'm so entangled in this, within my own world of looking at things for my own benefit, that I do not let myself develop. And as the following sentence says, the seeds of many potentialities. So in my human being, all those potentialities that has the potential to look at the hidden immaterial flowers, which I'm seeing as the mercy, the wisdom, the beauty, the order, right? The might, the magnificence, the power. So I am not able to go and see those immaterial and hidden flowers. And by hidden, I mean because we don't see that. That's why it feels hidden to us. And immaterial, because we cannot define what art is, right? Can you, like, is it material? No, but, and what order is that material? What mercy is that material? No, we cannot. So all those are immaterial. Yeah, so now that makes sense how this ties into the self-centeredness, because this is exactly how, I mean, all these events gives us an opportunity to actually develop ourselves as human beings.
Anyone else?
2 or 3 weeks ago, when we were discussing the first part, there were questions about free will when we were discussing free will. Now, looking at the second one, putting this second point to the center, it looks like the whole world is beautiful. Whole creation is beautiful, either directly or indirectly. But now, turning back to our real world, we see ugliness. And in the first point, he was saying that the ugliness, for the self, he was saying that the only thing that the self does, the only effect that the self has, is causing evil due to not accepting the beauty that comes from the Creator. Now in the second part, he is expanding this, saying that everything that comes as it comes from the Creator, or the aspect of creation as it looks to the Creator, is beautiful. So then my choice, as it was being explained in the first point, I am choosing not to approach to the things as they point to the Creator or in the name of the Creator. So this is where my free will kicks in. Because if I approach them in the name of the Creator, any of the creation, I am finding nothing to claim for myself.
Nothing to claim for.
Claim for myself. But if I reject this approach and approach the creation or the existence on my own name, then all the beauties start disappearing. So I guess this is where human free will is really kicking in. Am I going to approach the existence from the true maker's, true owner's name, in his name, or am I going to approach the existence from my own name? This is why he was saying that you do not create anything. Your free will does not have any capacity to create. But yes, I am choosing the approach in either ways, and he creates in both ways. And if I choose to approach it on my own name, I am finding myself in a world, in an existence which is totally ugly. This perception is being created for me. Darkness, loneliness, this perception is also being created. But again, I'm not creating it anyways. This is another issue. But still, this is my choice, not accepting the true beauty, rejecting to see the truth. So I guess this is where free will is actually acting. Because the question 3-4 weeks ago was, if I kill someone, then this person's family is being affected, consequences of this action, whatever this was. Generally, this is where we take the free will as if it is taking place. Like it has a share in the creation. But apparently now combining the first point and the second point, the free will is taking place in how am I going to approach the existence? Am I going to consider it in the name of its maker, or am I going to consider it self-centeredly, meaning that on my own name?
Even there, like it is true that like we experience the darkness or the like suffering, let's say, it is a consequence of not being a good receiver of the mercy and the good and the beauty from the maker. So like it is a lack of mercy, or it is a lack of beauty, it is a lack of perfection that is being created for you in your own world, for your own perception. But again, it is like lack of mercy, lack of something. It's like the same way as like darkness is the lack of light, suffering is the lack of mercy, and you are the responsible for not being a good recipient of the mercy of the Creator. You are blocking, like in a way you are blocking, let's say like you want to have sunlight in that point in the room, but you close all the curtains like layer over layer. So you are blocking the ways or like the windows, like where like you would receive the light.
Oh. Any other comments?
So then can we say that free will takes place in the domain of belief? Either I do believe or I do deny. Because approaching a rose, approaching any existence, any creation, in his name means I bear witness he is the creator. Or saying that I do it is rejection, ascribing partners to the creator. So in a sense, I mean, practically, free will is being practiced in either believing or bearing witness in the creator or being a denier of truth.
That's the realm where the free will is completely free.
Let me read the paragraph again, because I really like this part. Beneath the veil of events like storms, earthquakes, and plague is the unfolding of numerous hidden immaterial flowers, the seeds of many potentialities which have not developed, sprout, and grow beautiful on account of events which are apparently ugly. After Isra's comments, which I really like the part that she mentioned the relationship between the tragedy and the courage. I guess the example was about a war, but I guess this is how I perceive the reality, how I perceive most of the beautiful names. Like they come out of seemingly ugly tragedies, like courage. And anyway, when I read this part, when I read about the earthquakes or storms or plagues or ugly things, maybe it is because my current situation, maybe, I don't know, maybe I have a lot of ugliness inside, but when I read such things, I usually look at I'm more, let me put it that way, I'm more worried about the ugliness that I see in myself. And nowadays I can see many of them. And when somebody talks about an earthquake or any kind of destruction that takes place in front of my eyes, what I see there is mostly destruction of my ego, destruction of my claims, destruction of my false ownerships. Like I experience a tragic events, and I am shaken with the fact that I don't have control on anything. Like I do not enjoy the earthquake, but I'm trying to control it. I don't want to have it in my life, in my reality. I don't enjoy it. I have this feeling of the pain. And what it reminds me that the way I've been living my life before this earthquake, and these earthquakes now shaking, destroying my perception, my reality. Whatever you believed so far was wrong. Whatever you claimed was not real.
Shutters down.
Yeah, exactly. Shutters down my reality.
Your false, I don't know, constructed, illusionary palace.
I see something that I don't enjoy in someone, and when I really look at it, not like, just, oh yeah, I don't hate it, I hate it, and then go on with my life. No, when I look at it, I see myself. I see the thing that I hate about myself. Like somebody do an injustice in front of my eyes, and I see the injustice I do all the time. Exactly, it becomes like a mirror of myself. I see people killing like children. Yes, maybe I haven't killed any children, but I can still, I don't know, this may sound a little violent to you, but I'm really sincere with that. When I look at such thing, I see the potentiality inside me, like, I can be someone like this, and I don't like it. I hate it. So through this hatred, through this destruction, I find myself. I see the ugliness in me.
You get to know yourself.
And my creator telling me that Birkan, the pain, the hatred you have, it's from me. Because as Osman was saying, you're blocking the light. You're blocking the names, the beautiful names that can manifest on you. And instead you're becoming a tyrant.
That's a very good point.
That was someone, I guess, turn on the mic. Sorry, I couldn't see the name. But you can go on.
Yeah, brother, can you unpack a little bit more, because I find it a little bit hard to follow. I understand that, I agree that we mirror each other, but do you mean that we don't have genuine empathy for each other? So like if you see the scenes of people being tortured on the other side of the planet, are you immediately, like what really bothers you is the fact that you feel helpless, or what really bothers you is that these people are in pain?
I guess it's all starts with the feeling, initial feeling that I have, like the people are in pain, and I don't enjoy it. Yes, it starts with that. But then I think it continues with the realization that what I see there, it's somehow a reflection of how I've been living my life. So I will give an example. This will be a repetition for some of you. I'm really sorry for that. But
Can I just
oh, you go ahead, you first. Yeah.
do you, like, maybe it's not really a true reflection of you as in, like, let's say tyrant, but you see within yourself the potentiality that what you may become. Because like in man's creation, in nature, there are like infinite level of like let's say virtues, right? Like you can become the lowest of the low, but you can also become the highest of the high. Like, for example, in the example of like Prophet Muhammad versus Abu Jahl, right? So they both had the same potentiality. Prophet Muhammad used in a way that he reached the highest of the high, as opposed to Abu Jahl, he was the lowest of the low, like of man, right? But like in their nature, they both had the same potentiality. But one took the self-centered approach versus the Prophet took the like chronic approach. So we all have that kind of potentiality within ourselves, and when we encounter with an event like, let's say again, like the tragedy that is like happening for years in Syria, we can see like glimpse of it in ourselves that actually we may become one of those like tyrants as well, if we take that path.
So the example is not directly related to something like war. It is much simpler. So that's the reason I can make sense of it easier. Recently I've been thinking about some issues that I had with someone very close. He's not working, so he's living with the family. She's like old enough, only a few years younger than me. He's not working, he's just living with the family. From one perspective, he's just having fun and so on. And I've been always bothered with this, like for years, for many years. I see an ugliness there, something ugly. You should work, you should, earn your money, like you should sustain yourself, whatever it means. You should get married or, take care of your children. And the opposite is somehow ugly. Like it's true or not, but this is how I see. I see an ugliness there. So the one way I could take it as, yes, this person is an ugly person. He's lazy, he's not responsible. But then I started questioning why I struggle with this, why I'm having difficult, like what I'm having pain, let's say, why I see it ugly. And the answer was, the answer that I reached after many, many iterations, that because I deserve what I'm being given, like all these bounties, like a salary, I don't know, the food I have, the apartment I have. I deserve all of them because, I worked really hard. And he doesn't deserve what he's being given. Yeah. So that's the point I've reached. And when I realized that, like, is this really how I see the life? Is this really how I see myself? That I have rights over what I've been given and he doesn't? Is it really any different? What I have and he has? He's been given some sustenance, I've been given some sustenance. In reality, they both coming from one source, one way or another. In one way, it's coming through work, in another case, coming from the family. So, yes, we can discuss, we can argue like he should study, he should work or not, but I guess this is not the point, at least not for me. The point is the apparent ugliness that I was experiencing at the first time, at the first place, was an indication of the ugliness I had in myself. I was in the ugliness that I saw, I was seeing myself. I was facing myself, the ugliness inside me. It was a means to facing myself. So what I'm trying to say, through the distractions, through the ugliness that we experience in life, when we take them as speech, when we take them as messages, tailored for me, that they are not about some other people. My Creator is not gossiping with me, saying that, oh, Birkan, look at these tyrants. You're not like them. They are really terrible people. I like you, Birkan. Let's come and, talk to each other about them. This is not the situation. No, he's talking to me about myself. If I see an injustice there, it means there is something that I don't like, or there is something I should get rid of. Because what I see there is the reflection of what I have inside.
When you realize that the relationship becomes like the relationship between you and your Creator, not the relationship between you and the person, that so like the shape of the relationship changes completely.
Yes.
Then whoever that individual is becomes completely irrelevant. Like, take that individual and out of the equation put Yusuf there, will make no difference. Because like that is not the focus. Your focus is like now like you and your Rabb, your sustainer.
Other day I was listening to someone, I guess it's a long time ago anyway. I was listening to someone who was giving some arguments against the scripture, the Quran. He was saying, like, what kind of scripture is that? Like, what kind of creator you believe in? He's gossiping about some other people. Like in one cave, he's selecting one person as a prophet and coming together with this guy and talking about some other people, about the bad things they do and so on. That was his argument. He was serious.
Interesting.
It's not like a joke. But most of the time, this is how we live our lives. Yes, like when we take the creation as the scripture, when we take the creation as the speech or the revelation, when we don't like something outside, we attribute this ugliness to the things that we don't like. As if my Creator telling me, do you know, Birkan, I don't like this person. I don't want you to like him as well. And to me, this is not any different than seeing the scripture as telling me the stories of other people so that I can make fun of them, or so that I can, at least belittle them. So, in summary, what I'm saying is, I guess every distraction that we experience is somehow our own distraction of our own image. And we don't like it.
Can we say that every distraction actually reminds us who we really are? Because in reality, we have almost, let me say almost, so like there will be no objection to it. We have almost no control over our own life, even though we have a lot of claims that we do. And we don't like that. We hate that actually. Because we want to be, and we want to be on our own terms. And all the distractions that we go through in life actually is just a reminder for us that like you are not the owner of your own self, and you have no control over. And actually, those events are there to teach you who really you are, so you can actually use that as a stepping stone to get to know your creator and establish a trusting relationship with him, and so that like you can be in full submission to him.
And this is what I understand, like exactly what you said. When author says, as though general upheavals and universal change are all immaterial rain. Just like the real rain purifies or cleans the things outside. All these events I experience purifies me, cleans me. Get rid of all these false owners, the claims.
Packages.
You don't have control on anything. And through the tragedies, I face this reality. So I guess we spoke that loud here, so maybe people joining us online should speak more. Any comments, please go ahead. You don't even have to wait for me asking. Nothing. Should we then continue reading the next paragraph, maybe? Yusuf, Abdurrahman, nothing. Mariam?
Just one quick comment. Like actually, it is really like if you can do that, it's very freeing for the spirit, because through like this process, you get rid of like all of your baggages, and you realize that actually there is nothing actually vazgeçilmez. Inevitable is the same word.
No.
Indisposable. Indisposable.
There's nothing actually in this life. There's nothing is indisposable for human spirit. As as long as you have that relationship with it.
With the Creator. As long as you have the relationship with the Creator. He cannot speak, so I have to complete
yeah, that was the end of it.
The last sentence of the paragraph, he says, since he is self-centered, he reasons according to the results which looks to himself and judges it to be ugly. Whereas, if of their aims, one looks to them, thousands look to their makers' names. So I guess this goes back to all these comments made by several people. I remember Yusuf making it, Isra making it, Osman.
Awesome.
Awesome as well, yeah. Reading events in the name of the Creator, like seeing the names of the Creator in the events, not the finding the horizontal links between the things themselves. So earthquake is not about the destruction of the soil or the houses or the people. It's the manifestation of some names of your Creator. The manifestations or the speech that is addressed to you. It's not about you. It's not about the others. Oh, go ahead, please. Someone.
Yeah, just I was just thinking. It's interesting to me, and I still think about it sometimes. Why in the Quran sometimes God mentions, and we send adhab on people with earthquake or something. I don't know if there's a verse, but I think there's a verse something like that. And I've thought about it, and And I realize, and there's also this verse, where those people who attribute deity or, say Jesus is the Son of God, the mountains are shaking or something. So there are many verses where one reads and I understand that earthquake God punishes with azab is, the azab is not the earthquake. The azab is that those people think earthquake is punishment. The azab is not so, and the mountains and the shake for people who attribute deity to Jesus. So yeah, so for these people who think that things themselves have their power, then these things are so unstable as if their world is shaking. So I understand that from there, I used to understand that these people who go around saying Jesus is the Son of God, but their world is not shaking, Quran is not talking about them then. Quran is talking about those people who, when they attribute something, deity, the heavens shake or something. That's the person. So it's not these happy Christians that it's talking about who say Jesus is the Son of God and they feel really happy about it because they don't know what they're saying. If they actually, that's not who the Quran is talking about, but that's a different point. But, when Quran says, I punish people with earthquake, what it really is saying is those people who will see the earthquake as punishment. There are those people. So they feel they are being punished. So you see people actually who, there's an earthquake, they say, oh, we are being punished. And they don't realize it is their perspective that is that source of punishment. That they don't take guidance from, there are other verses in the Quran that says, siru fil ard, like travel the earth and see the end of those who were, something. And sometimes I used to think, if I travel the earth, the end of everyone was death, whether they were obedient to God or not obedient to God. If God says travel the earth, and what happened to people before me who were not, well, they're all dead. It seems like from one perspective, their end was the same. But it is precisely that perspective with which, if I'm the person who thinks life of this world is the only life, then when I look at those people who are dead, then I think, oh, they're gone forever. So it is my perspective that makes their end so terrible for me. Whereas if I followed the guidance and said, no, everyone who has died, quote unquote, has actually returned, then from my perspective, their end will be different. The end those who denied that return is terrible, but the end of those who have died but have returned is not terrible. So anyway, this punishment of earthquake is interesting because it is punishment for those. So if somebody destroys my house in front of me, I can either say, look to the result that looks to me and say, what did you just do? You broke my house, you deprived me of the house. Or I can look at the strength of the person who broke this house, and I'm just focusing on strength here, just because it was a silly example anyway, and say, wow, you are so strong, amazing. Do it again. So I can look to the same thing, my house is destroyed, the result that looks to me looks very ugly, but when I see it as looking to the one making it, I can get very different results. So anyway, I think maybe I confused many different things in my comment, but I think what Birkan and everyone said was really nice. We can continue.
For example, man reckons to be harmful and meaningless toned plants and trees, which are among the great miracles of the Creator's power. Whereas they are the well-equipped heroes of the grasses and trees. For example, man reckons to be harmful and meaningless toned plants and the trees, which are among the great miracles of the Creator's power, whereas they are the well-equipped heroes of the grasses and trees. So this is easy to understand, okay? I see the toned flowers thorny flowers, and I can see that, oh yes, they have a function there. They serve a purpose. So this is something good. But how I go beyond this, how it's related to the beautiful names of the Creator, or how this is any different than adaptationist or evolutionist perspective. Like, oh yeah, it serves a purpose, so it's good. Like, is it giraffe? Do you say giraffe? Giraffes has tall the neck because they can reach. No, this is old school adaptationist, but good example. Grasses. So how this is different than such a perspective? Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be different. Maybe there's a truth in this perspective as well. But so how I've reached the beautiful names of the Creator from here. And for example, hawks, herrings, sparrows is apparently incompatible with mercy, but through this herring, the sparrow's abilities unfold. I guess this becomes, at least to me, this becomes hard to understand when it is about some birds or flowers which are external to me. Then I guess any kind of explanation doesn't make much difference. Either an evolutionist perspective, attributing some purpose to the design, a function, or such a reading.
But why are you taking it just on the horizontal level?
So yes, I guess that's the point. Like when I take it at the horizontal
as far as we
level,
are concerned, we have only the universe to communicate with God. And if you don't have like different, for example, like hawks versus sparrow example, or thorns versus like other trees example. So if you don't have that relationship, then there will be a lot of other like aspects that will not be manifested in the universe. So if there is no manifestation, how would you really know the Creator through those names?
So I guess in here the main point is seeing forms as a manifestation. Because we generally don't take it as such. We take it as just ugliness. He's saying that no, it is a word. As last week we were talking about a text, and within a paragraph the word ugly itself appearing as a word. So but as we take it to, no, it is a manifestation, it carries a message from its maker, then it becomes a necessary word to be put in the sentence because it expresses a meaning. So, the difference between, let's say, an evolutionary explanation for the purpose of an animal versus this sort of a divine wisdom perspective, let's call it this way, divine wisdom perspective for the purpose of an animal, that makes a big difference because, as you were saying, one is a horizontal relation, the other one is a vertical relation.
I think we should, how about we bracket evolution? I think it's not even making sense horizontally. I know it's very common in the field, but I feel like we don't need to even entertain it as a possibility. It just doesn't make any sense. Even horizontally, it doesn't make any sense. How could any simplest organ can develop just randomly and adapt? What the heck that means? They don't even know what they mean by adapting. They just mean this thing and its environment are perfectly suited to each other. That's it. They have no proof of adaptation, this, that. Like, I don't want to go, I'd rather, I don't know, the theory itself is very ugly to me. Even though through that other beautiful things can come. So can we just like bracket evolution perspective?
No problem.
Oh, did you say bracket or?
Yeah, just omit it. It's not worthy of our.
Okay.
It has no like real proof. It's highly speculative at best or dishonest at worst, I mean, why do we even, it's not just, even horizontally, it's not based on something.
I see, yes, I agree. It wasn't, it's like, it's not maybe the good example. What I was just trying to say is, like, should I take, when author talks about the purpose here, or a function of a thorn on a plant, like when I first read it, it reads or sounds as if this purpose or this beauty that he's referring is not any different than a purpose or a function that, you know, such a theory would refer. So I'm not, you know, talking about the theory itself. It's just the term purpose or function. Like a thorn has a function on the plant. It protects the plant. Okay, great. But this is also being told in, let's say, science texts as well. So I'm just trying to see, like, what is the difference between the function of thorn according to author, or a function of thorn according to such, with your words, like the silly theories. But like, I agree, like, we don't have to discuss that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please. No.
Again, the main point is, like, if man's purpose on this earth is to know yourself so he can get to know the creator, you are gonna need all those, like, different manifestations so you can get to know him with all his names. So, like, it is required for your own learning.
And for example, hawks, herrings, sparrows is apparently incompatible with mercy. But through this herring, the sparrow's abilities unfold. Now, this is something I can personally make sense. I can apply to myself because this is I always experience. This is something I always experience. Like, people constantly herring me. Right? This is how I perceive. Like my colleagues, I don't know, the friends.
You have to catch up with something.
I have to catch up with something all the time. I have to, like, think the ways to tackle the obstacles or the problems that other people create. Like, this is the way we, most of the time, or the way I most of the time see the world. As if, you know, without the others, or as if without such problems, I would live happily by myself. But they just constantly, you know, poking, disturbing me.
Can I give you a practical
No, I can't.
suggestions?
But then, when with a, let's say, peaceful mind, when I look at the events, when I look at what happens around me, again, when I take it as a speech from my Creator, and it becomes a big training for me, everything. Like, nothing or nobody is trying to disturb me, they're just helping me. All these obstacles I see initially, they becomes means to reach my Creator, train myself. And I can see that without these obstacles, I wouldn't even try to learn something. I don't even have this desire to improve. Let me put it that way. I said it wrong, sorry. If I was left alone, I cannot even create this desire to improve. So this desire has to be given to me. So
you still think that you can improve stuff?
So that's what I'm saying. Like I can't even desire to improve, like let alone to improving things or myself. Even this desire has to be given to me. And then means to improve has to be given to me. And through these means, this improvement has to be given to me. I cannot be left alone. I shouldn't be left alone.
And I guess the most practical example that I can relate with, I was sick a month ago. People were cooking very beautiful food, but I didn't have the desire to eat the food. So since you were saying that desire to improve something, apparently eating food is something within my reach, within my choice. If you want to eat, you eat. If you don't want, you don't eat. But no, the want to eat was not there. But it's not by choice. So I was not given the choice to choose eating. It was interesting.
The implication of that statement is that, like, if Yusuf is not sick, there is no one cooking beautiful foods.
Is that what you...
No.
I think this is a logical misjudgment.
Another point, comments? And for example, he considers the snow to be very cold and uninviting, but under that chilly and pleasing veil, there are aims so warm and results so sweet, they defy description. There are aims so warm and results so sweet that defy description. Any remarks regarding here?
He's making the same point with different examples.
Also, since man is self-centered and worships the apparent and therefore judges everything according to the face that looks to him. Again, I guess this is the crux of the problem. We take things either in their names or in the name which looks at ourselves. He supposes, to contrary to good manners, many things that are perfectly polite and correct. For example, in man's view, the discussion of his sexual organ is shameful. But this veil of shame is in the face which looks to men, whereas the faces that look to creation, art and its aims and purposes, are veils which, if considered with the eye of wisdom, are perfectly correct. Shame does not touch them at all. So I will be honest, this part I'm having struggle to understand. Because when I first read it, it sounds like, it's just throwing arbitrary examples which doesn't follow each other. Like after cold thorns, the sparrow's herring, now coming to sexual organs, talking about shame. Even when, when I repeat the word sexual organ, if you could see the face of Yusuf, he's shameful. I can see it. So anyway, what is the point? Why he's talking about the, at least apparently irrelevant thing? So please help me.
What other possible extreme examples that he could come up with to
Please you.
Attract your attention that we are so submerged into the desires and the self and very egocentric worldview that we don't even think of the aspect that actually looks to the creation of it. And if you think about it through that process, and miraculous things being created in front of your eyes, like you experience it yourself. You go through the process. Actually, when you go through the process, you understand that actually like the sexuality part of it really like means nothing in terms of like witnessing it like another living being coming into existence. And another thing, like I don't know like how it fits here, like it may sound like irrelevant. I was like in Syria, like when Syria was there.
So before the Civil War.
Like long before. I met a brother like from UK that converted to Islam, and he was there to learn Arabic and like religion and all that. And he mentioned about his sheikh and one of their discussions, and his sheikh told the people there he feels or like understands better or feels closer to God when he is intimate with his wife. When I first like heard that, I was like, what kind of sheikh is he? Like, I was like, you know, like at first like it sounds like very like almost like annoying because we are not really used to like talking about those kind of experiences in a way that actually becomes like another means to draw closer to yourself to the creator. So like I guess the point is like in those kind of circles, the people actually this is another stepping stone for Marifatullah. Since we are not really used to that kind of living, it sounds like very irritating for us.
And this reminded me like the fact that such topics, they are also part of Quran. In Quran, creators talks about them. And I'm just trying to understand like the guidance aspect of it. And the shame. Like why do we have this feeling of shame, or what kind of teaching we can get from the feeling of shame?
I think, I mean, as far as in the English that I understand the text, he says this veil of shame is in the face which looks to man. So the text is saying that there is shame in the face that looks to man. So insofar as anyone would mention this or discuss this in the context or in a way that looks to us, there is shame, and that shame is not bad, and that shame, there's nothing wrong with that in the way that it looks to us. So that I find it shameful to meet someone and start discussing sexual organs for the sake of them, or for as a way of discussing each other's life, or each other's the face that looks to each other. So it is only that face looks to creation, art, and its aims and purposes, which when considered with the eye of wisdom, so there's a lot of like qualification here, like when the context or when one is looking at it with the like the wisdom in these things from the creation's point of view, and the art and the purpose in these things, and how everything in creation fits together as complementary, and how it is wonderfully, it's so wise, then in that sense and so in that sense he's mentioning all the things that apparently may look ugly or shameful, like a sparrow being eaten by a hawk, or being chased by a hawk, or a person, or discussion of a sexual organ. These are all things that share the quality of looking apparently unwholesome, apparently when looked at in themselves, look something that we don't want to look, we don't like. And this is how it is and should be. But when looked at as veils that are pointing to something else, then. So I think these are all common, what's common between them, and they're instances of apparently things that we would shy away from or run away from or object to with different, strongly or mildly. But all of them can be seen through the eye of wisdom. And yeah, I mean, possibly a sheikh could talk about this. Although, I don't know, as a third-hand report, I don't know when people talk about it, with what aspect they really are mentioning, these things. So I don't know. But I think in the text, it's saying that there is shame that looks to, in the face which looks to human beings, but there is also a discussion of them from the aspect of art and creation and purposes. These are not shameful. So,
and I think it connects to the Quran from there. It says there are, in the last paragraph, it says there are sometimes references in the Quran. What I understand is that references that seem shameful, but actually they are not, because it's looking to a different aspect than the one that we immediately think of.
This kind of reminded me, when you go to hospital, the doctor tells you there is no shame between the patient and the doctor, right? It's normally you shouldn't. I think that's what the doctor says. Normally, because he or she should be interested in what is wrong in your body, if there is anything going wrong or not. But you still feel ashamed. So it's not like there's a switch, you turn it on or off just because you or she said that. So that when he says that it looks to the creation, art, aims, and purposes, that reminds me that because the doctor is interested in that, if it is functioning properly or not. So there is no shame in that. But there's still interaction between us, so we still feel ashamed.
I think your intention and context matters.
Then it becomes actually a really good example, because it's a good example to show that your perspective, are you taking it in your own names as your part? Or are you taking it as, again, a manifestation of a name? And what I understand from here is the author saying, when Quran mentions them, in Quran, when Creator mentions them, he mentions them from the perspective of their being created. And you should read it in that sense.
Let's mention the other end, just to make sure that we have balance. If you take it for your selfish carnal desires, and especially if it is an illicit way, then it becomes something despicable. Not alone just shame, it's actually in an illicit, especially in illicit sense, it becomes something despicable. That's also who you are. That's how you feel about it.
I will ask last comments, remarks, or questions. Please do not hesitate to ask questions as well.
I have one question. So, again, in this paragraph, earlier in this paragraph, we went through a couple of examples. And from your explanations, it's when we talk about the struggles we have in this life, it's if there were no problems, no struggles, we wouldn't have the desire, we wouldn't even have the will to do anything. So that's kind of improves us, right? At least shows us the way to improve ourselves. It my question is, at the end of the day, then should we be thankful for those problems, or should we like send them to me like I want to improve more? Is this the attitude we should be in, or is just if it is there, okay, I will go through it. I'll try to go through it. If it is not, I shouldn't ask for any more trouble. Which way is it?
If anyone has a short answer,
No.
we can answer now, or we can postpone it for next week.
Isn't it like what is the end of the tahiyyat, the two dua that we like recite in the prayers? Don't we ask for like the goodness of like both worlds? I think that's like also something innate that's what we seek. But at the same time, if some sort of, let's say, bala is given to us, then we should also understand that there is some like learning that we have to do to go through that process.
I muted Faraz and Yusra because Azmun was talking. You can go ahead now, if you don't mind.
On the one hand, the only thing to be said is what Osman said, that we ask for the future. We also ask for ease and not be given trials. And it can sound, it will sound very presumptuous to say otherwise. At the same time, in the interest of honesty, I should say that there have been times in my life where I have found myself in a situation where in a position where I realized that I had been given so much and I was completely ungrateful for it, completely mindless of it, did not appreciate it. And in those moments, I can confess that I have sometimes asked God to not give me the kind of ease that breeds ingratitude, and that greeds that would make me slip into taking things for granted. I have sometimes asked him to give against my own wishes. I have asked him that even when I want ease, please, if you know that I'm going to fall, against my wishes, put me in trouble so that I come back to you. I have to confess, it might sound presumptuous, but in a general setting, this is not correct. In a general setting, it should be said that we should seek ease. However, in the individual particular case, it is conceivable, that you will find, or I found myself in a place where I remember saying this, or experiencing that, let this level of ease and comfort not come. If it comes, let me not be, protect me from mindlessness. And if you know that I'm going to be this mindless and this unthankful, it is unbearable for me in that moment to realize how much I was, that in your wisdom, please give me the trial. Don't trust me with ease. Don't bless me with ease, because, so it is possible in that moment of extreme feeling vulnerable, you can actually ask for trial, or but again, this is something very specific and particular. It doesn't mean that we should go around,
and it's not,
it is unnatural, it is not fitri to, but, and yet there is something to being, realizing that when I so misuse something and I completely am made aware of it and I accept it, I sometimes can volunteer. If I make so many accidents with a beautiful car, it is conceivable that at some points I might come to my father and say, please take these keys from me. I really shouldn't be driving this car. And then maybe the next day I will come back and say, no, please give me the car again. Now I want the car again. But there are moments where one really feels, it depends on how ungrateful you actually acknowledge yourself to be, or you realize what you had and what you did with what you were given. But those are moments. Those are moments when people in the past also have, and people, everyone. I think it is something a relatable experience when you actually say that, right now I actually want not this kind of ease, because that ease in reality is a burden. It is a mindlessness, and you seek refuge from that burden of mindlessness into something that will bring you back. So I'm sorry to take so much time. I don't want to sound presumptuous or but it is a little bit complicated question. There's no general answer that covers everything.
It's a situation where your mistrust in yourself is in the foreground, and it could be the same situation where you really mistrust yourself, but then also say, please give me in such a way that I would not abuse it, or just shift the focus and make it give me what's best for me and make me happy with it, instead of me insisting I should get this car or that thing. It also reminded me, what you said reminded me of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam's dua in the Quran, when he is when that woman threatens him that he's going to go into prison if he doesn't yield to her desires. He says, I prefer prison to doing such a thing. So he felt like he had two choices: either be in comfort but do wrong, or go to prison, which is very uncomfortable. And he said, that's what I would rather. It's a virtue to be able to ask for it. At the same time, I feel that sometimes I think I only have two choices, but maybe why? Maybe I can have a third choice where it's easy and close, and his mercy, his compassion is unending, so we can ask for ease. And that's many of the prophets in the Quran, they pray that way. They ask for ease and khair. They ask for not being tempted, not being tested, and so on.
Jazakallah khair, everyone. Yusuf, you want to say something? Let's keep it very short, please.
Okay. So, in Rumi's poems, he's kind of jokingly playing with the words. He says that when God asked us to be Rabbikum, am I not your Lord? You replied saying Bala. So in Arabic, Bala means yes. But I guess since he's writing in Persian, Bala also means trouble. So he says, do you know what is the price of, or the how you pay back for this yes? He says it's by suffering. So by saying that this Bala, you invited those Balas or troubles upon yourself. So I guess this is about the human creation, but anyway, it's just to conclude it with a joking like.
So Jazakallah khair, everyone. Again, that was another lovely discussion. I really sincerely thank everyone who contributed or just listened.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.